Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We have the great pleasure of having a visit from Governor Hochul, who took the time prior to this to speak with me and some members of my team to better understand what it is that we're seeing on the ground. And we're really experiencing an affordability crisis, and what I heard yesterday, I was listening, me and probably millions of others throughout the state, to try to figure out what it is that is going to be done to help us try to meet the needs that we see at CEO. So you're at CEO's Community Resource Center, and we're a community action agency. We're one of 47 throughout the states, and our job is to promote and support the residents and the situations and the constant issues that they experience on a daily basis. And so having the governor to come and kind of put real grit and to see for herself what it is that we're experiencing on a daily basis, trying to help the community, is a great honor. So I appreciate you. I heard things that resonated with me yesterday, and I look forward to. I'm going to be cheering you on
Thank you,
from
Sue.
the sidelines. So.
Right.
Like to welcome.
Thank you, Sue. It's great to be here to see the real heroes, the individuals who have worked here, 32 years? 32 years, and other members of staff who worked here 20 years, 17 years, because these are individuals who have such a passion for giving people a better chance in life, whether it's the early childhood programs that I just had a chance to experience with some delightful 3- and 4-year-olds. They have newborns here, all the way up to seniors. And this is a place of renewal and rebirth for so many whose life circumstances have been tough. So these are the people I was thinking about in my address yesterday when I talked about how we can make New York more affordable. And it starts with understanding that families are struggling. It's been hard. Inflation is not their fault. It's a nationwide phenomenon, but that doesn't help them when they're trying to buy diapers and formula and the clothes for the kids in the next room. So we understood this. That's why we're increasing the child tax credit, $1,000 for children up to the age of 4. A number of the children I just saw would qualify. $500 starting next year for children older than that. And this is going to put real money back in the pockets of parents, in addition to our inflation rebate. For families, it's another $500. For the cost of school lunches and breakfast, picking up that cost puts $1,600 back in the pockets of hardworking parents, as well as a middle-class tax cut, which is the largest tax rate cut in over 70 years. So it all adds up. So the parents dropping their kids off here, when we implement this and get this through the legislature and get real money back in the pockets, it just gives them a little breathing room. And that's all they're asking for. Just give us a chance to get our head above water, and that's why I'm really proud of the work that you're doing here and all the true heroes, as I mentioned, who come here and nurture these children and just to teach them the skills, learning their colors and learning their shapes and preparing them so they're more successful when they do get to kindergarten, and there's nothing holding them back. So I want to thank you for that, and everyone part of your team here, Sue, and happy to take any on-topic questions for now?
Yeah, we'll do some offs as well, but let's start with on-topics about childcare. Jason?
Governor, your child tax credit, you also yesterday mentioned your middle-class tax credit. I'm wondering what spending you're looking at reining in to pay for this, if we can afford this. Does this mean we're going to have to dip into the reserves in some sort of situation? Like, what are you going to do to offset this?
Absolutely not having to dip into reserves to fund this. I have managed our budget over the last 3 years to ensure that we went from 4% reserves to over 15%, so we're ready for a rainy day, and it's not raining. I'm saving that for a difficult economic downturn, et cetera. We have seen more robust profits coming in from Wall Street. We benefit from their success. I think that's important to note. And our receipts are coming in a very healthy way. We would not be spending beyond our means. That's not how I've done this for years. I don't intend to do that. So everything we're doing is we're able to afford to do, because we have no option in my mind. We have a responsibility to help these families who live in our state, who've made this their home, who want to stay here, but there's just so many barriers to them. I want to make sure that we have the resources we do at the state level to make sure we can put more money back in their pockets.
So if Wall Street doesn't perform this year, is this going to?
It's not all hinging on Wall Street. I'm just saying that their bonuses came in higher than expected at the end of the year, so it allowed us to look at this a different way. But we are doing well. You know, we've managed our finances. Our bond ratings are high. And you couldn't always say that in past years when it came to the state of New York's government. I'm very fiscally responsible. I've managed and worked on 14 successful town budgets, so I know how to do municipal financing, and I know how important it is to have the reserves, also spend within your means, but also take care of our families, and this just shows our priorities.
Okay, anything else on topic?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Troy has one of the highest child poverty rates in the state, and if parents get this tax credit, that's great, but what about the cost of running a child care center for the employees that are there? How does the state answer that?
Right, and also just building more child care centers. I mean, this is what I hear from parents. I mean, I've heard this from reporters I've sat down with. They say it's how hard it is to even find a slot. We have a real shortage of child care slots. That's why we're putting $110 million into renovating existing, expanding existing, but also building new ones. But also, it is hard to attract child care workers because minimum wage, you know, as we said, it's difficult to do these jobs. They're not well paid. And that's why when we increase the minimum wage, we indexed it to inflation. So their buying power goes longer because that was not the case before. But I understand how important they are. We also have various programs to support them. And I talk about free community college to train people in our high-demand fields. I would put child care in that category with social services and health care because, again, if someone who's 25 to 55, maybe thinking about going back to school, maybe they lost a job that they thought would be there longer, I want to give them another shot because I have employers, just like our child care agencies, who are desperate for more workers. We're also having a substitute provider program because you can't be not able to go to work because your child care provider called in or something happened at the center. We have to have the reserves in place, and that's something we're rebuilding up as well, another creative approach to solving the problem.
Great. Anything else on topic? All right, great. Thank
You
you,
have
Sue.
gone? Okay.
And then
Thank
we're
you,
gonna-
Sue. Appreciate it,
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
for your time today.
No, great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate what you do. Thank you.
All right,
be-
Beth's going to do one brief statement about some current events, and then we'll take some questions.
I'm very encouraged to see that there is news of a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. This is something I've called for many, many months over the last year since the horrific, barbaric attack on innocent civilians in Israel that occurred on October 7th of last year. My main priority has been bringing home the hostages. There are still 4 American hostages, including one young person from New Jersey. Our goal is to get them home back in the arms of their families who've been desperately seeking their arrival. I'm sorry that it didn't help families like the family of Omer Nutra. It's heartbreaking because I met his relatives immediately upon arriving in Israel when I went there in the aftermath of this slaughter over a year ago. And I was at his funeral, and to hear what kind of young man he was, we lost someone who really would have been an agent of change for our society with all his interests and how he cared so much about others, even at his young age. So our hearts continue to go out to those who were killed on that day, to those who were held captive and not returning home, but to the families that are finally going to get what they've been praying for this long time. This is very good news for our country, and I hope it is fully implemented as soon as possible.
Okay, any off topics?
The governor
Let's start with John. We'll go around in order. Thanks.
Governor, your plan to have police officers on overnight subway cars. How many police officers is that going to take? What is that going to cost? And what about the idea of having that during daylight hours? Why did you decide overnight rather than daylight?
Because you look at most of the crimes that are committed is on the overnight hours. We also want to have the police deployed so they can make sure that when commuters get out in the morning, that the environment is safe, that those who need assistance are not on the trains in the morning, those who have been maybe spent the night on the train, that we can help people get to supportive locations. And so it's about making sure that first morning commuter experience is very positive, and we've worked very closely with NYPD to come up with this plan. Chief Kemper is formerly managed this for NYPD. He now works for MTA. This is part of his overall strategy. I asked the same question. I said, what about daylight hours? We are not removing the National Guard. The existing NYPD or the MTA police from their normal routes during the day. But it is those overnight hours when we have people coming in and working, the overnight shift at a hotel or a restaurant and healthcare facilities. There's a lot of anxiety late at night on these trains, and I want to tamper that down, but also send a message that if you're trying to do something harmful to others, you will be caught. And I want the police riding on the trains. I want them not standing on the platforms so much as circling in and out of the stations and, in and out of the cars. I think that's important. Right now, I think the costs are about $77 million to make that investment, and I have to get the exact numbers on how many that's going to. We're just working on the details, and I believe that tomorrow, I'll be in the city announcing all the details. Okay.
And also, you had a strong campaign finance period, another strong campaign finance period, but it also comes at the same time where, you've been struggling in the polls. So what do you explain the gap in enthusiasm between, your donors' enthusiasm and the general electorate's enthusiasm, right?
I'm just doing my job. And I do believe that when people heard more of who I am, and I've heard that a lot, people don't know really who I am, what drives me, what my motivation is. That has been something that's been missing because I've been so focused on policy. And people love our policies. For the last 3 years, they've been wildly supportive of everything we've done and even more responding to them in a way that is deeply personal to me because I've lived that experience, to make sure that families know they have someone who watched people suffer. I saw the decline of communities. I saw people give up hope. I think that's an important message. People understand who I am and why I do what I do. So the more that message gets out, but I'm not going to worry about polls. I'm going to worry about doing my job. That's what people put me here for.
Marie?
Governor, on Cap and Invest, why the delay of the timeline? Your officials had said we would have regulations for the program by the end of last year and implementing, people were being briefed as late as December saying, we're going to have revenues from this program by the end of this year. So why the delay? What led to that decision?
This is a very complicated program. We have to get it right. Only one other state in the nation has gone forward with this, Washington State. I've spoken a number of times with the governor about what they've done and how we can make sure that we do it in a way that is going to be very successful. But you also have to measure pollution before you can solve the problem. We don't have the data necessary right now that we thought we would have, but we don't have. So it's a foundation of a smart program, is to have a better understanding of what we're dealing with here. So that's why it'll take some time. But what people should be more focused on is that the benefits from Cap and Invest mean there's money coming in for us to invest in programs that are so important, retrofitting homes and giving them heat pumps, working on SUNY CUNY facilities and making sure we have clean energy generation at those facilities, green transportation. So the $1 billion I announced yesterday, and we'll have more details on this when I announce the budget in less than a week, that shows the real commitment. That shows my commitment on top of signing the Climate Change Superfund Act. That shows my commitment on top of countless other initiatives we've brought to generate more clean energy transmission. It's critically important to the future of our state. So this simply says we can study here, we'll get the right information, we'll get it right, but I'm not letting these projects go unfunded. I think that's an important distinction to make here.
All right,
Will the
Rob?
program be implemented before November 2026?
I'm not going to have the details in place right now. All I know is that I said to my team, while you're studying this and getting it right, we have to get it right. We have to get this right because I believe that other states will be looking at us as a model as well. Not just Washington, but the state of New York has to get it right. I'm not walking back on all of our commitments or the investments that are being actually made earlier than they would have been. What I'm talking about, and just listed, are investments in clean energy that were not going to happen until this was ready. I'm saying let's do it now.
Okay, Rob?
Governor, on Saturday, you were in the city of Buffalo walking around with Police Commissioner Joseph Crumaglia. Not long after that, the acting mayor, Christopher Scanlon, fired him from his job. What's your reaction to this turn of events?
Are you drawing a correlation between my visit and the firing?
No.
Okay, just want to be sure on that.
No, just that you were there walking around.
No, because he was the chief police at the time, what I was doing was putting a spotlight on the incredible success that the city of Buffalo has seen in driving down crime to the lowest levels in 18 years. I mean, the statistics are hopeful, not that a city that, when I first moved back to Buffalo in 1991, the murder rate was off the charts, the assault rates, the gangs, the shootings, neighborhoods that have been paralyzed. like the west side of Buffalo, the 10th Street Gang, they held this city captive. And I saw that, but so when I see the numbers that I track every day of what crime statistics look like across the state, I'm able to go there and say, what are some of the challenges you have, but how'd you overcome them? And the answer that the commissioner gave me was so positive. He said the investments we made from the state of New York in technology, policing technology, drones that they used to find a homeless man who had wandered off and was buried in snow that they never would have found. He would have died. Within 12 hours of them turning on our technology in December, they found that man, and I had a chance to see the video. Or to prevent crimes in neighborhoods that have been under siege for so long. So I was there to say, yes, these investments are smart, and I'm getting that money out all over the state. We don't defund police in the state of New York. We fund them to the tune of $1.5 billion, and I want to go back to Buffalo and see how it's being done. So it was a very positive outing, and the mayor can make any decision he wants, but it is very traditional for a mayor to bring in their own team. It does not necessarily mean that there was any fault on anyone's part, but you bring in your own team. You're entitled to do that.
Was there any inkling when you were there?
No.
That this commissioner was gonna be fired? And are you concerned about the message that you're walking around with this person around the city of Buffalo, showing them off, obviously supportive of them, and then 2 days later, hey, by the way, they're fired? Does that upset
You know, I know Buffalonians, they're talking more about the Bills game on Sunday than they are about that.
Okay, let's do on this side, Jack.
We're going back to officers on the trains. What took so long to make this decision, and why did it take you to make the call? Why did the governor, or the mayor, excuse me, make that decision?
The mayor did talk about his additional investments in public safety in his State of the City address just a few days ago. This is not a new idea. You know, we've had 1,250 extra individuals to be in the subways as a result of our surge a year ago. So this is not a new idea. It is just simply saying, like, what else can we do? I'm always pushing us harder to do better. And crime statistics aside, there is still a feeling of unease that we have to be sensitive to. And if people feel better seeing a police officer on the trains, not up in the station, not necessarily on the platform, but in the trains, along with the cameras, which, as you know, I was very aggressive in getting those cameras on the trains. They told me it would take a few years. I said, no, it will not take a couple of years. I want it done now. And every single train car has a camera. I cannot tell you the number of crimes that are being solved. NYPD is grateful that they can now find perpetrators that otherwise would have been nameless and gotten away with crimes. They're being caught now. So I think you're going to see a different, better outcomes as a result of that, but also the police officers to prevent crimes, to solve crimes, and to give a sense of security that is necessary so we end the chaos on our subways.
Okay, got time for one more. Dan?
Governor, in your State of the State book yesterday, you say that you're going to negotiate a revenue source for the MTA during the budget.
Mm-hmm.
We knew that. Will you have your own proposal next week in the executive budget, or do you want to start those negotiations without a proposal on the table and just?
No, I think the leaders were clear that in vetoing the initial proposal put forth by MTA, which is customary for them to put that to the leaders first or to the representatives on the decision-making panel, I'm willing to sit down and roll up our sleeves and to find the path forward to fund what is basically the lifeline for downstate New York. And it has a ripple effect on the rest of the state. As I talk about the revenues that allow us to take care of families here in Troy, much of that does come from the downstate economy. We appreciate that. It's important. And I have to make sure that people can get to those jobs in a faster way. And that's why I'm focused on shaving off time for people coming in Metro North, adding new lines and enhancements on the Long Island Railroad, as well as ensuring that the subway itself can be expanded, the Second Avenue subway, the work we're doing there. Also, new connections. The Interborough Express is going to be a game changer for people who live in Brooklyn and in Queens. So I'm excited about this. I love these infrastructure projects, and they're all being jump-started. We're creating tens of thousands of jobs. So the MTA capital plan is critically important, but the details will emerge after our conversations with the two leaders.
Okay, so on.
Governor, we'll part way with affordability.
We're doing on.
Why don't we allow two more questions?
You're so generous.
I am.
On,
I-
and then channel 6.
Appreciate it.
All right. You owe me one.
Thank you.
Okay. So do you.
The mask ban. Last year, we were in a press conference, I believe in June, where you said this was obviously an issue and that the time has come to address that. I was was not in your state of the state yesterday, not in the book as well. Why isn't this a priority?
Well, it's very important for us to ensure that people who commit crimes do not get away with them. And I have said I would consider language that says if you commit a crime while wearing a mask, there should be enhanced penalties, and the process is not over yet.
Okay, Channel 6.
Governor, following your state of the state, Will Barclay, Assemblyman and Minority Leader, had questions on your affordability agenda, just given your stance on congestion pricing. What's kind of your response to that critique?
Is he worried about congestion pricing in Oswego? Okay. No, what he has to understand is this. Upstate elected officials should have also an appreciation for how important this is to get people to work and to ensure that Manhattan, which is the economic driver for our state, actually fully functions, that we can have vehicles move at a better speed, that we can have the revenues necessary to support the MTA. So I'm happy to take him on a ride on the subway and let him see firsthand. And I really do have a very positive relationship with him, going back to my many days of visiting his district. So I know he will be open-minded to understand why this is important. It has to be funded, but also to appreciate that this would have been 40% higher had I not stepped in to cut that cost, understanding that there are challenges for families and individuals. But by and large, when you see that there is an option, you know, up in his district, my old stomping ground, there were no other options. You had to drive a car. This is a region that is blessed with one of the largest, probably the largest subway transit system in the world. And the vast majority of people who work in Manhattan in that district, 90% are coming in on trains. And that's something I want to help educate some of our other elected officials who may not be as familiar with that data.
Great.
All right,
Thanks,
thanks, everybody, appreciate it.
Should there be congestion pricing in Oswego?
So you're concerned about the cost?